Hi, I'm Kelli Finglass, director of the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders, and I am coached to win.
Go get me some knowledge.
The Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders are an institution. Everybody knows about them. And you're in charge of them. And you've been doing it for a long time. How did you become the director of the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders?
I'm from a small town in East Texas, Lindale, and my passion in high school was kind of leadership based. I was student council president, and my big thing was band. I'm a band nerd. So shout out to band nerds.
You
I
were a drum
am.
major,
Yeah, I
correct?
was drum major. So that was I was drum major of the band, and then I was a dance major at TCU, and then I made Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders as a part of audition training at TCU. I didn't really think I'd make it, but part of our education were audition requirements. So I tried out for Six Flags over Texas. Did not make that. I'm not bitter. Not bitter.
But you've never gone since, right?
No, yeah, actually, years later, we wound up doing a whole summer series, a show. We've done 2 anniversary summer series shows with Six Flags. So
So you tried out for the Six Flags dance team? Did I hear that?
yeah, Six Flags Over Texas is a theme park,
Yeah,
and,
they're all over the place. Yeah, we have
yeah.
one in California too. Yeah.
So I was a little girl from Lindale, Texas, and I used to go see there's a dance little show, and I wanted to do that, but I didn't make it because I couldn't tap, so whatever. And then I tried out for Cowboys and I made it. And so my dance background complemented with my band training, honestly, is the thing that got me here the most because I was trained in precision marching, football field precision, music, and my band director was my most inspirational coach.
Being a drum major, were you responsible for where everybody lines up, or
Yes,
where if I hey, fine, you're on the right hash, you're on the 30-yard line, inside the
yes,
numbers, and everything had to be balanced and make
all of
sense,
that.
right?
Yeah, my band director, Mr. Omni, our band director designed the formations and he was brilliant. But as the drum major, excuse me, as the drum major, I had to quote blow the whistles. So I marched in front of the band and blew the whistles that would tell the band when to turn and when to change formation. So actually at a young age, I was under a lot of pressure for a group that was a precision based performance team. So I would say my band experience is what prepared me the most. And then how I got with the Cowboys was trying out and I became a cheerleader and I cheered for 5 years. And then I graduated college and had taken a job with UPS actually to work in their international marketing department because that was what my degree is in. And at the same time, Jerry bought the team in '89. And there was a little controversy over Jerry and visions he did or didn't have for the cheerleaders. And they walked across the street to my apartment to tell me I'd exited the scene. I was retired. And they came over to me, and as their advocate, I went over across the street to Valley Ranch and I met with Mr. Jones and told him, here's what these cheerleaders mean and here's the history. And he hired me as the assistant director. There was an interim director at the time. And then she left it 2 years later, and I became the director in '91.
What is that meeting like? So you meet with Jerry Jones, he just buys the team, big oil guy, and you tell him what?
I told him how important the cheerleaders were to the organization and the history because he was honestly, he wasn't even in town with this when this walkout was planned, staged, whatever you want to call it. Our
Yeah.
director at the time was exiting, and there was not it was an uncomfortable time for the Tech Schramm regime. And when Jerry bought the team, I would
Do you think that he was dismissive of the cheerleaders? Was it just not something that was on his radar that he really cared about? And you had to convince him otherwise?
I think maybe he didn't realize how sacred the cheerleaders were, and he had made this epic comment that's in the media. You can look it up, but he said that he meant it as a compliment, but in Jerry vocabulary, he said the cheerleaders were the pick of the litter. And that didn't go over well in Texas and just things like that. I think honestly it was a real wake up call to him to see how sacred the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders were within the organization. And things have been great ever since. Jerry's an entrepreneur. Jerry's going to say things and make things happen. And I guess I know it was the right amount of care and tradition and passion for the organization, but I also was a forward thinker.
You're tough too, because one of the things that I took from watching the Netflix special and watching all the other episodes on CMT is how direct you are. I wonder, why do you feel like you have to be so direct and honest when it comes to the women who are either getting cut or need to work on something? You're really honest. I'm curious why that's so important to you.
I actually appreciate you noticing that because honesty is important to me. I Part of my philosophy I actually learned from my son. And to make a long story short, my son was trying out for a middle school basketball team, and all his little buddies were trying out. And I was driving the carpool and I dropped him off. And then at the end of school, I was picking them up, and my son gets in the car and he was sitting in the front seat next to me. He's graduated from the back seat to the front seat, and he wouldn't look at me in the eyes. And I'll never remember this moment. I'll never forget this moment. I said, "How'd it go?" And he didn't say a word. And this big, huge, big, just crocodile tear just started coming down his face. And I'm looking forward in the car and I see that. And then my heart breaks for him. I knew he hadn't made the team, but I didn't want to make him feel any worse than he already did. So we drove home, and it was the next day I was driving him to school, and I said, "Ryan, did the coach tell you, do you know why you didn't make the team? Did he tell you anything you can work on?" And he said he didn't say anything. They just posted a list of names, and that was that. No conversation, no hope, no help, or no redirect. And I actually, that moment, Christian, decided, because I'm in the same position. I'm a coach and I'm dealing with
Yeah.
people's kids. And I made the decision that I would never release a girl from our team without giving them as much honesty as I could to give them potential hope, because our auditions actually happen every year to try out again or try out for a different team or maybe redirect to modeling instead of dancing. But I promised myself then that I would always give them my best feedback because I think they deserve it, instead of just somebody leaving and thinking there's something wrong with them. So that's how I've managed our audition and selection process from that moment forward. And that
You
was
think they appreciate it, or do you think some of them would wish for maybe a softer touch or maybe some false hope? I guess that's not what you're into.
I'm not, because I think false hope is just that. It's false. Yes, I absolutely want to give them hope. I do not want them to leave a conversation with me feeling defeated or hopeless or insecure, or any of that. In fact, and I do have a very soft side. I have I've been told I'm too soft at times. So when I'm looking at them, I'm just trying to help them. I love the role of being a teacher or an inspirer. That is my biggest passion, is I want to inspire them to be better next year and try out for our organization. And I can give them some very mechanical things they can work on. I can talk to them about dance technique and mechanical things. But I love discovering potential in people. And that's my favorite part of coaching is I know when someone is maybe 1 year away from it because they're not comfortable with projection, or they're a lyrical or contemporary or concert dancer and they don't have field power. Those are performance qualities that someone can learn with time. But yeah, no, I'm never gonna make excuses for trying to be honest. I know where my heart is. I can sleep at night. I can look myself in the mirror and know that I am doing my best to coach them to make this team or make another team, or be honest with them and say, "Hey, I really think you're more suited for runway modeling or musical theater or a different art form."
You're so authentic. That is extremely key. I think a lot of people have a hard time doing it because they don't like the backlash and they don't like the criticism that comes with that. So, with that, have you ever tried a different approach just to try it? Maybe someone said, maybe you should treat this one a little bit differently. And if you did, how did it go?
Oh boy. I've tried everything. I've tried everything. I've been doing this for 35 years, and No, I keep going back to honesty, and what I really know is I have a lot of experience in knowing who can make this team and who can't make the team, and I don't want to mislead people. I wouldn't feel good about that.
You mentioned field power. What does it mean when a cheerleader has field power?
It'd be the difference between in football. I don't know if you guys do walkthroughs and then just power, like you guys when you push
Is
through
it
the. It's
present? She walks in and you're like, holy cow, this person is impressive.
The presence for sure is more their showmanship quality. Do they have that it factor when they walk in the room? Do they have a presence that brightens the room? Power though on the field is actually it's difficult for dancers because dancers that are trained in ballet, lyrical, contemporary style dance is a much more controlled, fluid, maybe even slower tempo style dance. And we're asking for this is the drums, this is the heavy metal, the aggressive kind of dance power. It's an arena. If I, without dating myself, it's what Freddie Mercury can do on a stage, or I'm trying to think, even like a Beyonce, just somebody that just
Sure.
kills it and kills it hard when they're performing. And that sometimes in itself, we've had dancers trained at Juilliard and their technique is so beautiful, beautifully controlled and contained, but it's too soft for a football field. We're dancing to Thunderstruck and a lot of
Mhm.
classic rock, and it's got to be, it just has to have a lot of thrust.
What's more important, performance, general presence, or the technical aspects of it? Which one is the most important to you?
That's a great question. And
I should be a judge.
except that you're patriots and
Uh,
Washington and Seattle,
yeah.
you're all our enemies. No, yeah,
Yeah.
because to answer your question, it takes all of that. They have to have a presence. They're trying out amongst hundreds. The projection and the power is important. At the initial auditions, we see technique will get them to the next round of auditions. And then showmanship. Somebody, we've had great performers that just have this just showmanship, and a lot of that's even in just the facial expressions, and that can help push somebody over the edge. We've had beautiful technical dancers who can't project. They're a concert dancer, they're a soloist, and we're looking for this big team that can also dance in precision. They have to be very flexible for our high kicks. They have to have great stamina for our high
Man,
kicks and the whole game. So it's really all of the things you mentioned.
it's extremely taxing. It's long hours. It's very physical. It's mentally tough. It's physically tough. I have never seen anything like it. And the thing about these cheerleaders is most of them, either they're coming out of college or they're out of college and they have another career. The one woman that literally broke my heart, this she is an angel sent down from heaven. I think her name is Kelsey
Kelsey,
Wetterberg.
yes, Kelsey.
Like seeing her spend all day in pediatric care, nursing young kids, and then going to practice and just having such a good quality. She was one of your captains. What are the qualities that you expect your captains to have?
Well, Kelsey's a beautiful example. She was a great example, an example in the locker room and outside of the locker room. She's very disciplined, obviously dedicated, prepared, and she's humble and she's kind and she cared about her teammates. When they're a group leader or in football, a captain, they are responsible for a group of 9. So Kelsey's like the quarterback. She calls audibles during the whole game, and she's got to care more about her team than she does her own performance in a sense. She's got to have her you know what together.
Yeah.
It's got to be instinctive for her so she can focus on teaching and training and leading the other ladies in her group. And Kelsey's a beautiful example. As a matter of fact, I just saw her last night. She's getting married New Year's Eve to her Nebraska sweetheart
Mm.
because she's originally from Nebraska. So life goes on, and that's the beauty of her continuing her career while she was a cheerleader. She has a great career as a nurse, and she got to dance at night. You've been in sports your whole life. All of a sudden, when it's over, it's a
So
real
it's a weird
vacancy.
transition. It's
Yeah.
it's it's an odd time in your life. Why only 5 years? Is that the right number? Why do you cap it at 5 years for the cheerleaders?
It's actually not a cap. 5 years is a long career. Kelsey, there's very few, probably I'd have to do the math, but there's probably less than 50 in our history that cheered 5 years. That's a long time. But eventually, like in Kelsey's case, she's getting married and ready to move on. So that's usually what happens. They're either getting married or they're graduating college and starting a career, or they're ready to have some time to themselves. As you said, it's a big time commitment. Ready to have the
The
holidays back.
there's certain milestones that registered for me watching the Netflix special. It was almost like the stages of accomplishment for the girls that were continually advancing. You get the stars, you get the belt buckle, you get the pom poms, and then you get your custom fitted white boots.
Yeah.
Was that something you created as some sort of goal that the women can think about and then obviously accomplish as okay, I made it. But even when you get your white boots, you're still not on the team, right?
Yeah, so all of that. Yes, I'm a big kind of tradition creator and an idea maker. So the uniform fitting has become a huge milestone, which it used to just be you go in and you get your uniform fitting. But now it's a whole day. It's a whole ordeal. Each cheerleader gets a little gold ring. That's I don't know if you can see that little bitty gold pinky ring, but
Mm-hmm.
now we've made a big to do about the pinky ring fitting. Just to get fitted for your ring is a big deal. It's called the pinky party. When you get your ring at the end of the year, now we have an end of year banquet. When you get your uniform, yes, getting your uniform's the biggest a day, and the boots are a part of that. And the boots are custom made by Lucchese, which is a Texas based boot maker, and they're beautiful. And the boots have
Yeah.
become that. So yeah, there's all these moments, and I think they're important because they keep the energy up and the hope up and the goals up while otherwise people would get tired and they need things to look forward to.
I watched this show way back in the summer and could not stop watching it. I think I figured out your tell when something bad is going to happen.
Uh, it should be the music, maybe, but well, was it
I don't know.
usually
Sometimes the music's a red herring. Sometimes it's just setting you up.
that's true.
But yeah, and it's always lots of compliments.
Oh,
Lots of compliments. It's like the bachelor. Oh, you're awesome, but I don't love you.
right. Yeah.
It's so I feel like you should maybe reverse it.
I've done that before. I have done that before because once they know they're being released, then they're not hearing a word I'm saying. So sometimes I have said, "Hey Christian, you're not making the team and the decision's final." Now, here's some things I would like to visit with you about. So I don't know the right answer to that.
Yeah.
I don't know the right answer to that. It's as hard on me as it is them, that's for sure.
In the NFL, they have a guy, we used to nickname him the Turk.
Yeah.
And he was the guy come cut down day that if you saw him, you were running.
Mhm. Mhm.
And he was the guy that told you, hey, bring your playbook. Coach would like to see you. I feel like you guys, and I can't remember her name, you guys have an alternate universe version of that. Where after they are cut, they're met with hugs and kisses by another young lady who consoles them and then shows them the exit door in the most
Yeah.
peaceful manner imaginable. Was that all just part of taking care of them, making sure that they're not walking this long hallway by themselves
Yes.
after their dreams get crushed?
Yes. I guess that's the difference between an NFL coach and us being coaches and moms. No, we don't want them to leave here devastated. And I know they do. It's they work so hard and then their dream is ended at that point, at least temporarily. And whatever I've said, they probably don't remember anything I've said. And so that the person you're speaking of is Michelle Sharp. She's also a former cheerleader and part of our staff. And she's in the locker room with them and makes sure they're okay and helps them pack their things and gets them to their car along with our security guards. And we just want to make sure that they're not emotionally, they're not so upset that they're not safe.
The NFL needs a position similar to that. I think
Yeah.
things would go much better. Has there ever been a cheerleader that has said something to you that has changed the way you think about the job?
That's a pretty broad question. I've had cheerleaders that during training camp have talked their way back into training camp.
Talk them back onto the team.
Not onto the team, but back into training camp where so for example, if I ultimately we usually start training camp with 45 people in our squad. Our final roster is 36. So I have 9 people that at some point we're going to be saying goodbye to. So I've had a few that once we start talking, they They're not begging, but they convinced me enough that that more time would benefit them, and so I've said okay, and I've given them a few more days or another week or two, and given it another go.
Jerry Jones is famous for his "How about them Cowboys?" Do you have your own saying?
Oh boy, uh, how about them Cowboys was actually Jimmy Johnson's. That was Coach
Okay,
Johnson.
that's right. But Jerry
Yeah.
says it all the time, though,
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
he?
Yeah, everybody does now. I have one and I don't like it, but CMT, our previous show on CMT that was 16 years, picked up on me one night and I was releasing someone and she wasn't getting that I was cutting her. And I finally had to say, "Look, tonight's your last night. Like it's over. Tonight is your last night." And that kind of stuck. And so on the CMT series, when I was making cuts, they actually every cut ended in the phrase "tonight's your last night." And I wasn't trying to be scripty or clever, or I said it so they understood. No, because sometimes they don't really, I don't think they really understand what you're saying. Are there other sayings? I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
When it comes to the characteristics of the women that make the team, what do they all have in common?
They're all overachieve. They're very high achievers. A lot of them, we've accused ourselves, all of us, of being almost perfectionists. They're hard on themselves, to be honest with you, but they're just high achieving women. They are valedictorians at their school. They've graduated cum laude at college. They're all captains of their dance teams at their colleges, from UCLA in California to Rutgers, coast to coast. So they are parts, they've grown up in dance studios, dance teams, dance environments that they already know discipline, dedication, preparation. By the time they try out for us, they are elite dancers. But I would say a common quality is just very high achieving women, multitasking women. People don't understand how they can work and cheer, but then they go do more. They volunteer and they work out all the time and they go to parties, all showers and baby showers and stuff. They're just very busy women, and I think that's how they're wired.
If the Dallas Cowboys are not performing very well and there's a lot of negativity and a lot of criticism towards the team, do you feel like you're under more pressure as the cheer coach, as the director of the cheerleaders to do more?
Not really. Let's be honest. We're not performing very well right now. It's not a bright season right now. And the cheerleaders, as I mentioned when we started, we couldn't be busier. We couldn't have more demands for cheerleader performances and appearances and positive attention from the TV shows. The cheerleaders are truly a bright, shiny part of this organization, whether the team wins or loses. It's a lot more, it's a heck of a lot more fun when we're winning and going to Super Bowls and things like that. But it hasn't, oddly, and I've been here 35 years, it hasn't affected our business as the entertainment portion of the organization.
The cheerleaders may be the brightest star in Dallas right now.
I've heard that. I've heard that.
The service aspect of the cheerleaders, USO tours, hospitals, you guys, the squad, they are out in the community just as much, probably more than the actual football players. Why is that a big part of what you guys do?
It's just become a part of our DNA. Like, for example, in December, we do hospital visits, and that's with the football players and the cheerleaders. Obviously, during football season, the players between practices and games and training and all of that, they have less time. And the cheerleaders do a lot of community service appearances, but we do them also with our football team. For Salvation Army, we serve lunches to people during Thanksgiving, Christmas. We visit four children's hospitals. The USO tours, the cheerleaders just went to South Korea last year. We have a spring USO tour scheduled for Germany this year. And services, that is one of our core mission statements with the cheerleaders, is community service. And they're beautiful, great ambassadors. They are great with elder. They're also great with children. They're great with fans, whether they love the Cowboys or hate the Cowboys. The cheerleaders truly, when they walk in the room, they light up a space. If it's a lonely senior nursing home room or if it's a hospital room, that's another thing they all have in common. They really have great, approachable, dynamic personalities. And they're
Yeah,
from
no,
all
I
over the
can only
country. So
No,
So people,
yeah, I
I've
can
got
only imagine. You guys have been on the just tons of shows, movies. I saw this one show that you were on, a movie that you were in. It was called I Somebody and the Woman with Helen Hunt and Richard Gere. It was
oh, that was
old.
Dr. Yeah, that was
It was
Dr. T and
old.
the Women. Yeah.
I thought it was a real episode. I was like, this is weird. Why is Kelly letting this woman talk on the phone and she can't dance? I thought that was
Oh, it was
funny.
great. No, it was directed by Robert Altman, and Kate Hudson was the actress. It was, and Richard Gere.
Okay. Yeah.
Who doesn't want to say they did a film with Richard Gere? Yeah, that
Yeah.
was fun.
Go get me some knowledge.